state of California needs to close the digital divide for several reasons. First, I think it's just a matter of importance for each individual to have access to their communities. And in the 21st century, without broadband access, you're going to have people who live in isolation. And I think that's just fundamentally a concern in terms of being able to make sure that everyone lives a fulfilled life. Secondly, and from a government perspective, really everything that we do from a county perspective, including watching the rivers and dams for flooding, building roads and bridges, providing public safety, trying to rehabilitate offenders, provision of healthcare, is all dependent on broadband. And for us to be effective and efficient in providing services to the residents of California, we've got to have really broadband across the state. And then finally, it's an economic driver. You really can't run a business in California unless you're connected. And so in the same way that 100 years ago the telephone was a requirement, today broadband is a requirement if you really want to do business in a state like California. I think if you ask the average citizen whether we had this problem, I'm not sure they would even understand that it's an issue. Here we are in California, the home of Silicon Valley and Hollywood and the most wealthy state in the nation, and yet we have people who can't connect to the rest of the world. And so I think it's fantastic that the Emerging Technology Fund has stepped into that gap and advocated for those people. And representing counties, I can tell you that we're deeply appreciative, because our job is to make sure that those people get the health care they need, that they're safe, that their children are educated, that their roads and bridges are efficient and effective. And we can't do that without broadband throughout California. So just want to pass on a word of thanks. A couple of big challenges in California to closing the digital divide. One is the topography. So it's a huge state and very mountainous on the east and along the coast, and very spread out across the valleys. Moreover, there's huge portions of California that are sparsely populated. And so we have counties where there's only 1,000 people. And so to get up in the mountains and provide broadband to all of those folks really is a challenge. Secondly, it's obviously not profitable to do that. And so I think government has to step in and try to provide some assistance to those citizens that have been sitting in outlying areas for a long time with really no internet service at all. And then finally, I think we've got to bring California's citizens along. So I think we need to make sure that people understand the benefits, how to use broadband effectively, and help those people to come into the 21st century on this issue. The legislature's role is to fill in the gaps. And so, of course, the Bay Area, Southern California, you can't walk across the street without having broadband service and high-speed internet. But what the legislature needs to understand is that there's huge swaths of California where their constituents are struggling to keep up. And so, from our perspective, the legislature needs to open its wallet and provide the infrastructure needed for this kind of service. Secondly, it needs to, I think, really come to understand and fully accept responsibility for the problem. And third, I think the legislature needs to work with local government and with business to figure out what's the most effective, efficient way to bring broadband to at least 99% of the citizens of California.